The second chapter I'm going to really fly over, to be honest, is talking about plant physiology, and that's the chapter 30th. Those are the key points, and basically I just would like you to read that chapter very carefully. You've been around plants, I'm sure you know most of those definitions. Just take a look at them for maybe a little bit of closer look and understand some of the basic concepts that are around plant physiology. So basically the same design for most plants, if not all. You have a ground root system. This is the one that's going to absorb nutrients and water. And you have a above the ground system, which is the shoot system. Those are the one who have mostly some variation. So here you have the stems and the leaf. Well, plants belong to the eukaryote world, so that means that you do have many cells that are packed with organelles. You do have a nucleus, you do have an endoplasmic reticulum, and you also have plenty of mitochondria. They also have very specific parts which make them very different from animal cells, and those are of course the parts that are going to make that fundamental difference with the other organisms that are animal, meaning plants can do photosynthesis, and this is through the cell wall, the chloroplast, and the central vacuole that exists within a plant cell that you're going to understand how those processes can happen. Now, the cell wall is very rigid. That's what keeps the plants with their rigidity. And you do have there the structural basis and the shape of the plant. Now, the cell wall is made of cellulose. This is also some sugar, and those are complex carbohydrates. And the difference with animal is plants, through photosynthesis, can make their own amount of sugar, and that is why we call those autotrophs. What they need? Well, they do need the energy from the sun, they need the nutrients, they need some water, they need some carbon dioxide, and through photosynthesis they are going to give us a sugar and also liberate some oxygen as a waste product. So on this diagram you see the above the ground and under the ground. So let's take a look first at the roots. Well, they have a few functions. First of all is to anchor the plant, but also to be able to absorb that water. And you have those taproot, which are just hair-like that exist, that are going to just go much deeper in the ground to be able to reach underground sources of water. And on the right side we see the hair of the roots, or root hairs. Those are really what are going to help increase again the surface area to make sure you can absorb everything that the plants need. Above you see the stem, which is the upright support of the plants, and then you have the leaves. And if you take a closer look at the leaves, which is what you have on the upper right corner of the slide, you see the vacuoles, which occupy most of the cell, but you also see the rigid cellulose-based structure of cell walls, the nucleus that contains the genetic information, or DNA, and all those green dots which represent the chloroplast. Those are the photosynthetic organelles that exist in leaf cells. Now, how come plants don't bleed? Well, they do have a vascular system to transport valuable fluids, except that they don't have blood, but they do have water and sugar through the plant body that is going to be carried around, and some of those we call those sap. It varies from plants to plants, but that's the basic, very, very basic description of the physiology of plants. Now here to look at the transport of water, well, understanding that the water and the sugar go through the vascular system of plants, you see here on the right what I just explained, which is talking about photosynthesis. And then, so here photosynthesis, you have the carbon dioxide, CO2, that is going to be taken in, and then you are going to have the formation of the glucose, the sugar, the part that the plant is building up, as well as the release of oxygen and water as a waste product. But you also have, during the night, the plant that is going to consume part of the energy that they need for building up their body. So this is what we call plant respiration. And we also have another phenomenon called as transpiration, where the water can evaporate through the stomata. The stomata are the very tiny holes that you do have, meaning that the water is going to be pulled up, and by pulling up the water is actually going to suck in the water at the bottom of the roots. So those are here a cut section cross-section of a stem's vacuolar system, you see the phloem and the xylem. The xylem where the water travels from the roots to the leaves in this one-way tube, and the phloem is the sugar made by this photosynthesis, which is going to be what really makes the body structure of the plant. Those tree rings, well, they are the proof of the growth of the plant. You have two kinds of growth, the one said primary, which is where the plant grows in land, and secondary growth is where the plant grows in weeds. Those weeds are going to be where you look at a tree trunk and you see the diameter increase because every time they add a new layer of xylem tissue. This is what we call the wood, and those are the famous rings that you can observe on a cross section of a tree.